Welcome to Borum Hills Test Kitchen. This is the kitchen at 422 State Street,
Apartment 16.
I am so happy to be able to cook a wonderful ratatouille, which is a nice savory vegetarian stew. And I will be able to do this in one pot. And to accompany the ratatouille, I will be making a classic French bread. Now, as you can see, I already have everything that I will need to make the ratatouille, but timing is really everything in cooking and baking. And in order to serve both the bread and the ratatouille together, I need to start with the bread. So I'm going to get all my ingredients out for the bread. Regular all-purpose flour. And I will need sugar to add to the hot water, or really not hot water. It's just going to be 2 cups of tepid water. You don't want really hot water when you are baking and using yeast as a rising ingredient, because you don't want to kill the yeast. I'm just going to mix that up so that it dissolves a little bit. And the water has cooled somewhat. I think I will heat it up just a little bit more. God bless the microwaves. So, I don't want it too hot, like I said. Rather err on the side of caution there. Tablespoon of yeast. Yeast and salt. And some olive oil, and really that is it for the ingredients for French bread. You don't need a lot. I am going to put a tablespoon yeast in there. And it should be nice and frothy in about 5 minutes. While I wait for that, I'm going to
Add
4 cups Even though baking is more of a science as opposed to cooking, which is more of an art, you don't actually have to be exact with measuring because you can keep on adding. I will add some salt to that. And I'm just going to do a teaspoon of salt. And the recipe calls for 5 to 6 cups of flour. And it probably will be ending up to be about 6 cups of flour. I did not bring my KitchenAid here, so I am going to be kneading it by hand. Which takes a bit longer. It's probably going to be about 8 minutes of the kneading. Okay, so that has frothed up nicely. I'm going to put that 4 cups in this big bowl. I had added the salt to that. And then I am going to add that. I'm going to start a wooden spatula mixing that in. And then I'm going to end up using my hands. Now it's a very wet dough. And I'm going to add 1 more cup here. I'm sure it's going to need 2 cups. And then the great thing about this Caesar stone countertop is it's great for kneading dough. Okay. So these are going I'm about to turn this out. I'm gonna have like about half a cup that I'm gonna be able to pull this out onto. If I was at home, I'd probably be using a plastic spatula to get all of this out, but I'm not. I did not bring the plastic spatula. So make sure that your hands are floured before you really dig in here. This will probably be about 8 minutes of me doing this. This recipe only calls for 1 rise, which is nice. And it calls for olive oil, which is also nice. And then while this is proofing, I will start on the ratatouille. The nice thing about this apartment is it's nice and warm. We are towards the end of January, and it does not feel like it. So this recipe is supposed to make 2 loaves of French bread. And that's probably what it will make. So remember, this is about 5.5 cups. I might use a little bit more flour. It's starting to get sticky again. There are no knead recipes. I like kneading. Gets your aggression out. If you are aggressive. I am going to just add a little bit of olive oil in here. It's nice to have this really big surface to be able to do this. And now it's just about time for me to coat this. And it's nice and smooth. Hello. So this is the part of the meal that you actually like.
Oh, you're doing bread and ham?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's smelling so good. Nice round bowl. And then to keep it nice and moist while it is going to be proofing, we put a wet towel on top, and it'll be doubling in size. I'll use this one. This, and we will make it nice and damp. And that will just go over here where it's nice and warm. Just wipe this off, and then I will start prepping for the ratatouille. So we're back, and I have cleaned up here from the bread making, and now I am ready to start with the ratatouille. I have taken off the skins of the onion, and I'm just going to do a very loose chop of the onion. Everything is kind of big in ratatouille. It makes it nice and easy and quick. So I'm just going to cut it like that. And now I will be putting all of this into the pot. It will cook down a lot, and my husband taught me this. I will not start with olive oil like I used to, because olive oil breaks down when you heat up the onions. And I've got that on high because I'm going to want those to sweat. So just going to make sure that all the onions are kind of coated with the oil. And I will leave those to cook down. Now, cut up the eggplant. Eggplant should be cubed. Okay, got it sounding good. The parts of the eggplant that weren't so good, I'm going to be putting in the garbage disposal. So that you can see, it's looking like it's starting to get translucent there. And now it's time to add the eggplant. I mix that up, and I have lowered the temperature. I'm going to add some olive oil now. That was probably about a quarter cup. Just cover that up. The peppers, followed by the tomatoes, and add those because I want to go sort of the harder and then the softer, and then we'll finish off with the basil. Now I have all of my peppers prepped, and I'm again going to just do a very rough chop of them, but now I have the leftovers that I'm not using and I don't want to put them directly into the garbage, so I can use the garbage disposal. Voila! So this is a nice vegetarian stew, which would be good for us when we have parties because vegetarians come and they would want to eat something savory and hearty. And this was always a favorite. Looking forward to making this for a big group of people again one of these days. I do like using bell peppers any color other than green. I am not a fan of green bell peppers. So that is starting to look good. I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil. Eggplant really does sort of sop up oil. Have that kind of on medium heat there. And now I'm just going to use all of those grape tomatoes and chop them in half, and then there will be some basil. Okay, so I am just finishing cutting these grape tomatoes in half. That is looking like a vegetarian stew, and it will cook down more. And in the meantime, looks like my dough has doubled. and is ready to be punched down. Yay, punch! And now I will be able to form my French bread. So I've got bread, which I will just cut into 2 of those. Of course, I should probably have a rolling pin to do this more efficiently, but oh well. If it didn't have the olive oil, I probably would have put some more flour on the surface, but it does. So I'm just gonna kind of roll this to a form. So I have these 2 forms. I'm just gonna use one. Oop. I love the smell of this olive oil. It's really, really good. And we'll just be rising a little bit in the actual forms. And I will preheat the oven to 400 degrees now. And the bread will bake for probably about 20 minutes. Okay, I have just double washed and prepped the basil because it was really sandy. And now the oven is at 400 degrees, so it is time to put these bad boys in there. I'm just going to make a few slits. This is the sharpest knife I have right now, so this is the knife that I'm using. And in order to make this a nice crusty French bread, I'm going to just douse some water in here after I have put the bread in. So just spritz a little. And that should be good. Should be about 20 minutes. My ratatouille will be ready at that point. I'm just going to do a quick chiffonade of those basil leaves. So when you do a chiffonade, put the leaves together. And wrap them up. And then cut on a diagonal as narrow as you can without cutting yourself. Don't cut yourself. That is my rule number 1. So then it kind of looks like that. So I'll be doing that, and I will see you in about 20 minutes. We are almost ready to go. I'm going to put half of or 3/4 of the basil in. The rest will be garnish. Okay, so it's time. looks totally done. I'm just going to put the rest of the basil on top. Nice and brightened up. How beautiful is that? And now I have my bread. Nice and crisp and toasty.